My name is John. That night, as I was shaving in the bathroom, I unwittingly began a nightmare I could never have foreseen. The moment I shut the bathroom door, the cool, crisp air slapped my skin, jolting me into a state of alert. In the pallid reflection on the mirror, I sensed that something was off. The metallic hum of my razor echoed a deep-seated unease within me. After my shower, I stepped in front of the mirror, only to notice something stirring in the background. At first, I chalked it up to fatigue or the tricks of an overactive imagination. But then, amidst the steamy haze, a faint trace became apparent. A smear of red lipstick had been left on the bathroom wall. Alongside it, in nearly illegible handwriting, the words, "I'm watching you," were scrawled, sending chills down my spine. As I moved through the rest of the house, an inexplicable tension began to assert itself in every corner. In the middle of the living room, I discovered a faded photograph carefully set in a broken frame on the table. In it, two strangers stood side by side, one bearing an uncanny resemblance to a long-forgotten fragment of my youth, and the other, an indistinct man whose face was shrouded in mystery. In that moment, the mounting questions in my mind grew heavier, hinting that everything was merely the beginning of something far more sinister. Later, as the night deepened, my phone rang, with a quivering, ghostly voice. The disembodied whisper said, "Don't forget me." Its chill reverberating, as if emanating from the darkest recesses of my home. In a panic, I scrambled to secure every lock, yet nothing appeared as it once had. With each step I took, the relentless grip of paranoia tightened around me. Unable to bear it any longer, I decided to step outside for some fresh air. The silence of the night greeted me as soon as I left the house. Walking toward the garden, I noticed a thin layer of dust shimmering under the moonlight, a stark reminder of a place seemingly abandoned by time. At the edge of the garden, distinct footprints, muddied and deliberate, caught my eye. My heart pounded furiously as I followed them, wondering where they might lead. The footprints guided me to the farthest corner of the garden, near an old, weathered shed. The rusty door of the shed hung slightly ajar, and a cold draft seeped out, beckoning me inside. Once there, I was met with relics of a forgotten past, old family photographs hanging on the walls, and a broken television screen that stood as a silent testament to years of concealed sorrow. In that moment, I realized that the unsettling details in my home and the horror that had commenced in the bathroom were not random. They were the calculated design of a single, disturbed mind. Tears welled in my eyes as I wondered if this was the vengeful legacy of my house's previous owner, Michael. Struggling to regain my composure, I found myself at the very end of the garden, standing beneath a vast, ancient tree, there overwhelmed by the crushing weight of the revelations. I acknowledged that no part of this house, the bathroom, the living room, or even this garden would ever offer me solace again. True terror, I realized, lies not in the shadows of a building, but in confronting the secrets buried within one's own past. And in that grim, transformative moment, I knew I would never be the same again. My name is Carter, and I never imagined that a simple camping trip would unravel into a nightmare. Along with my friends Sienna, Zane, and Aurora, I ventured deep into Greenwood Forest for what we thought would be a refreshing escape from our everyday lives. We arrived at the forest just as dawn was breaking, the sky awash in gentle shades of pink and orange. The air was crisp and pure, and the scent of pine and damp earth filled my lungs. Sienna busied herself gathering firewood with a contagious enthusiasm, while Zane meticulously mapped out our hiking route, his camera hanging by his side. Aurora, ever perceptive, seemed to sense something lingering in the air, a quiet warning among the rustling leaves. That first night, as we sat around a small campfire, the comforting crackle of burning wood was accompanied by distant, indistinct murmurs. At first I attributed the sounds to the wind whispering through the trees. However, as the night deepened, an inexplicable chill crept up my spine, as if the forest itself was sharing secrets meant only for the darkness. The following morning, we decided to explore a little further into the heart of the forest. The towering trees, intertwined like ancient guardians, created a natural cathedral that both humbled and unnerved me. It was then I noticed a series of footprints on the soft, muddy path trail that veered off our planned route. Zane speculated they might belong to a stray animal, but something about their deliberate formation struck me as unsettlingly human. Driven by equal parts curiosity and a creeping sense of dread, we followed the trail. The deeper we went, the more the forest seemed to morph into an unfamiliar labyrinth. The path narrowed, overtaken by gnarled roots and dense underbrush, while the ambient sounds of nature faded into an eerie silence. Sienna's once energetic chatter fell quiet, and Aurora's cautious glances betrayed an inner alarm. I felt every step draw us further from the safety of known trails. Then, without warning, the forest's quiet was shattered. In a small clearing, a sudden rustle among the bushes made my heart race. Instinctively, I clutched the pocket knife I always carried, my senses on high alert. Out of the shadowed undergrowth emerged a disheveled figure, a man with wild eyes and a tattered coat. His lips moved in a hurried, unintelligible murmur before he vanished into the dense thicket, leaving behind a scattered trail of disordered footprints that merged with the ones we had followed. The encounter left us all shaken, and the initial thrill of adventure quickly morphed into a palpable dread. The forest, once a sanctuary of natural beauty, now felt like a maze of ominous secrets and silent threats. With each step back through the twisting paths, the wind seemed to echo with ghostly whispers, fragments of voices that left more questions than comfort. As dusk settled in, we reluctantly decided that our safety lay in retreating from the forest's clutches. At first light, we abandoned our makeshift camp, our hearts heavy with uncertainty and our minds burdened by the inexplicable encounter. We retraced our steps, every rustle and shadow in the undergrowth fueling our anxiety. Hours later, disoriented and exhausted, we stumbled upon a solitary motel on the fringes of a forgotten town. Its neon sign flickered weakly in the pre-dawn gloom, a stark promise of shelter from the horrors we had just escaped. Inside, the motel was as unremarkable as it was worn. Creaking floors, faded wallpaper, and a silence that seemed to scream in contrast to the forest's haunted echoes. Sitting alone on a lumpy bed in my cramped room, I couldn't shake the lingering terror of that night. Every creak of the old floorboards and every whisper of the wind outside served as a reminder that the forest's mystery was not so easily left behind. The rational part of me argued that it had all been a series of unfortunate coincidences, but deep down, I knew we had encountered something far beyond mere chance. Now, as I gaze out of the motel window at the emerging light of day, I am haunted by the memory of Greenwood Forest. Its secrets remain shrouded in darkness, echoing in my mind and leaving me with a chilling truth. Some mysteries are meant to remain undiscovered, their whispers following you long after you've escaped the shadows. My name is Gavin, and my journey began in an old cabin nestled on the edge of an abandoned lakeside retreat. I arrived late one crisp autumn evening, seeking solitude and a break from the relentless pace of everyday life. The cabin's wooden walls creaked under the weight of history, and the dim light from a single oil lamp cast long, wavering shadows across faded portraits and weathered furniture. As I stepped inside, I couldn't shake the feeling that the cabin held secrets it was desperate to share. While exploring the cramped space, I discovered a dusty leather-bound journal tucked beneath a loose floorboard. Its pages were filled with cryptic entries and sketches of strange symbols, maps, perhaps, or warnings of something hidden beyond these walls. My hands trembled slightly as I flipped through the pages, each word pulling me deeper into a mystery that felt both eerily personal and disturbingly timeless. At dawn, with the journal clutched tightly in my hand, I stepped outside. The chill morning air carried the scent of damp earth and pine, and the horizon was painted in soft hues of orange and pink. Near the back door, a faded envelope lay on a weathered wooden bench. Its contents were Sparza's single note in spidery handwriting that simply read, "Seek the truth beyond." I knew then that the cabin was only the beginning. Driven by a mix of curiosity and an inexplicable pull toward the unknown, I left the safety of the cabin and followed a barely discernible path leading into the surrounding forest. The trail, marked by overgrown ferns and the occasional carved symbol on a tree trunk, seemed to beckon me forward. Each step into the forest deepened the mystery. The vibrant chatter of birds and rustle of leaves felt orchestrated, as if nature itself were conspiring to reveal hidden truths. As I journeyed deeper, the forest transformed. Sunlight became a rare commodity as ancient, towering pines formed a dense canopy overhead. The sounds of civilization were replaced by an almost tangible silence, broken only by the occasional snap of a twig beneath my boots. In one particularly secluded spot, I stumbled upon an old stone marker, half buried in moss. The marker bore an inscription I couldn't decipher, series of symbols that resonated with the sketches in the journal. I paused there, heart pounding, and tried to piece together the fragments of the puzzle. Every rustle of leaves, every whisper of wind seemed laden with meaning. The forest, with its deep shadows and unexpected clearings, held an undeniable aura of mystery, a reminder that some stories are written long before we are born. Eventually, the narrow trail opened into a vast clearing, where sunlight filtered through in soft, golden beams. In the center stood a gnarled oak, its massive branches twisting toward the sky like ancient arms reaching for secrets. I circled the tree slowly, feeling as though I were on the brink of uncovering an age-old secret. The clearing, bathed in the quiet majesty of nature, felt like the forest's heart, an invitation to embrace both the beauty and the enigma of the unknown. As I lingered there, the weight of the journal and the note seemed to merge with the forest's silent promise. I realized that the truth I sought was not a tangible answer, but rather the acceptance that some mysteries are meant to remain unsolved, a delicate balance between understanding and wonder. In that moment, surrounded by the timeless whispers of the forest, I found solace in the enigma, and so, my journey, which began in the haunted solitude of an old cabin, found its ending beneath the ancient boughs of the forest. The echoes of that day still resonate with me, a reminder that the path to truth is often paved with questions, and that sometimes the most profound discoveries lie in the quiet spaces between certainty and mystery. My name is Bennett, and this is a story I never thought I'd live to tell. It all began on a crisp autumn night, deep in a dense forest, where I had pitched my tent with my friends Matthew, Scarlett, and Donovan. The tent, our temporary haven, from the bustle of everyday life, creaked and shuddered in the gusting wind, as if whispering warnings we couldn't quite understand. I lay in my sleeping bag, staring up at the dark canvas of the sky, when a barely audible murmur stirred in the distance. At first I dismissed it as the wind playing tricks on my ears, but the sound grew steadily into a disconcerting whisper. With a mix of curiosity and trepidation, I slipped out of the tent into the chill of the night. The forest floor was slick with dew, and every step I took seemed to be swallowed by the vast, oppressive silence. As I moved further away from our campsite, I noticed a series of small, deliberate footprints etched into the soft earth. They were too light and precise to belong to any wild animal. Drawn by a need to uncover their meaning, I followed the trail, my flashlight's narrow beam dancing over gnarled roots and fallen leaves. The deeper I ventured, the more the forest transformed from a familiar wilderness into a labyrinth of shadow and murmurs, after what felt like hours of silent pursuit. The trail led me to a dilapidated building standing forlorn among the trees. Its weathered walls and broken windows told a story of long-forgotten despair. Despite every instinct screaming to turn back, an inexplicable force urged me forward. I pushed open the creaking door and stepped into a dimly lit corridor, each echoing footstep fueling my growing unease. Wandering through the desolate halls, I eventually discovered a narrow staircase leading upward. At its end, I found a door left slightly ajar, with a faint, childlike glow seeping out. Compelled by a mix of dread and longing, I slowly opened the door and stepped into a small room that seemed frozen in time. The room was unmistakably a child's sanctuary, a stark contrast to the decay of the rest of the house. Faded pastel wallpaper adorned the walls, and an antique bed lay neatly made in one corner, as if awaiting the return of its tiny occupant. Scattered across the floor were remnants of a once joyful existence. A porcelain doll with cracked features, a miniature train set halted mid-journey, and a collection of picture books whose pages had yellowed with age. In one corner, a chalk drawing depicted a radiant sun, accompanied by the single word, hope, etched in delicate script. As I took in the scene, my heart ached with a profound sorrow. In that silent room, I felt an overwhelming connection to a past that was both tender and tragic. My eyes fell upon a crumpled diary hidden beneath a pile of worn toys. With trembling hands, I opened it to discover the poignant words of a young girl named Lilia, story of innocence lost, a life marred by neglect, and a quiet plea for recognition amid loneliness. Sitting on the edge of the bed, I read her heartfelt confessions, each page unraveling the mystery of a childhood that had been abruptly stolen. In that fragile space, the laughter and tears of a lost soul resonated with me. The room, imbued with the echoes of a once vibrant life, became the final, haunting testament to Lily's existence, silent chronicle of hope and despair intertwined. As the first light of dawn began to seep through the broken window, I reluctantly closed the diary. I knew I must return to the campsite and to the world of the living, but the memory of that child's room and Lily's lingering spirit would remain with me forever. In that forgotten space were the remnants of a lost childhood, whispered secrets of the past. I found a mystery that was as real and enduring as the beating of my own heart. My name is Wesley, and my journey began at an old village house I inherited from my late Uncle Richard. Tucked away on the outskirts of a quiet hamlet, the house stood isolated amidst sweeping fields and gnarled oak trees. Its weathered stone walls and creaking wooden floors bore the weight of decades of secrets, a repository of memories I was both eager and reluctant to uncover. That first evening, as the sun sank below the horizon, I wandered through silent corridors, lit only by the soft glow of a single lamp. The familiar scent of aged wood and lingering tobacco, once Uncle Richard's signature, filled the air. In a dim corner of the living room, I discovered a dusty journal left open on a time-worn table, its pages filled with meticulous handwriting and cryptic notes hinted at hidden truths. Murmurs in the dead of night, unexplained footsteps echoing through empty halls, and the presence of a mysterious figure roaming the property. Each word sent a shiver down my spine. Unable to ignore the pull of those enigmatic entries, I found myself drawn to the Attica place of shadows and forgotten relics. There, behind an ancient wardrobe, I uncovered a locked chest. With trembling fingers, I pried it open to reveal a collection of letters and faded photographs. One envelope, in particular, stood out. Its delicate script read, "Some truths are best left forgotten, but the road to revelation begins with a single step." The cryptic message weighed heavily on me, merging my growing curiosity with a sense of impending dread. Restless and unable to sleep, I decided to clear my troubled mind with a late-night drive. I stepped outside into the cool embrace of the night and climbed into my old car parked near the house. The narrow gravel road led away from the village, eventually merging into a long, desolate highway that stretched beneath the indifferent gaze of the moon. As I drove, the steady hum of the engine and the rhythmic sway of roadside trees offered a temporary solace from the mystery that now consumed my thoughts. Yet, as the highway unfolded before me, my solitude was abruptly interrupted. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of a figure standing motionless by the roadside. My headlights illuminated a lone silhouette draped in a heavy cloak, standing in stark contrast to the barren landscape. I slowed to a crawl, heart pounding, as I tried to discern any details of the mysterious stranger. The figure did not move, nor did it respond to the passing beams of light. It simply existed, an eerie sentinel against the night. In that moment, I felt an unsettling convergence of the past and the present. The figure, so inexplicably out of place, seemed to echo the unspoken secrets of Uncle Richard's journal. I cautiously passed the figure, my mind racing with questions that had no easy answers. Had the secrets of the old village house followed me onto the highway? Was this apparition a ghost of local lore, or something else entirely? An omen, perhaps, of a destiny intertwined with the unknown. As the highway stretched on into the darkness, the mysterious encounter remained etched in my memory, a haunting reminder that some truths refuse to be confined to dusty journals and abandoned houses. The open road, illuminated only by my fading headlights, transformed into a threshold, a passage between the tangible and the inexplicable, where every mile whispered secrets of a past that was never truly laid to rest. And as I merged with the endless stream of cars on the highway, I couldn't help but wonder if the journey away from that old village house was only the beginning of an even deeper mystery, one that would forever alter the way I perceived the world and the shadows that lurk just beyond the reach of the ordinary.